right. Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our committee, our committee of the whole meeting today. So welcome. I'm going to start off this meeting by introducing an awesome group of students that we'll have the pleasure to get to know and work with over the next school year. And so I want to just draw my colleagues' attention to the group of students there behind Shannon. This is our I guess 2019/2020 Mayor's Youth Council class. So if you all wouldn't mind standing up, just so we can recognize you. We have a larger group this year, which I'm so delighted about. What's the number, 36? 34. So 34 students. Commissioners, they'll be reaching out to you. So those who live in the First Ward will reach out to First Ward commissioners, and that goes for Second Ward and Third Ward. So you'll have time to meet with the students from your ward, and then I'll obviously be spending a lot of time with them. I want to also just appreciate Shannon for all her work in coordinating this effort. The lineup for the year is really fantastic, and I look forward to spending time with you. So thank you for being here today, and hopefully you'll learn a few things, and we can talk about it next time we meet. So thank you. And commissioners, all of you should have a full list of the students in front of you, so you can highlight the ones from your ward and then work with Shannon to set those up. All right, so next that will take us to our first item, our first action item before us today, and this is a resolution scheduling a special meeting of the City Commission. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, so commissioners, this is what, I'll just turn to our city manager to tell us about this.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We've been planning 3 meetings at the same time. This meeting today, the meeting on the 18th and the 19th. And the meeting on the 18th is for the purposes of us giving an update on our strategic plan and fiscal planning, and we want to get an early start. And we think that it's prudent for us to begin the meeting at noon to allow us ample time to discuss the updates and horizon issues as it relates to our strategic plan.
All right, so thank you. So every one of you should have this marked off on your afternoon, so we'll have hopefully plenty of time together to work through that and give direction as we move into the fiscal year for next year. So commissioners, any questions about that? All right. Go ahead, Commissioner.
The invite we got has it starting at
Yeah.
Yeah, let me clarify that. I think that was our effort to make sure that we were able to get you here and fed. But I think we'll go ahead and start at noon and then have box lunches available to make it a working session.
Great.
Give you
Or
an
you
hour
can
back.
eat early.
Right.
Right. All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next we'll take us to a resolution approving a First Amendment and restatement of the Grand Rapids Whitewater, Inc. and the City of Grand Rapids MOU to recognize the city's $2 million capital investment in the river restoration project. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, Eric DeLong, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, I do, Mayor. Thank you, and good morning, everybody. So today, what we'd like to do is ask you to consider amending the MOU between the city and Grand Rapids Whitewater. And there are 2 purposes for doing this. One is to clarify our contribution schedule and to actually authorize payment. So the payment, the $2 million, is included in the capital budget. It's been appropriated. And so what this will do is allow us actually to begin making the installment payments over the next 5 years. The second one provides the opportunity for the city to hire consulting engineers to help with projects during the period of time, and also then have those be eligible for project reimbursement. And so the first instance of this will be when we retain an engineer to help produce 90% drawings for the lower reach to help expedite the production of those documents so we can get into permitting as soon as possible. So these are the MOU is working great. The partnership is strong. We're making good progress, and we couldn't be better together. So this just kind of clarifies the relationship and helps us move along.
Yeah, thanks. And Eric, maybe this would be a good time to share. This is a pretty small fraction of the overall project. The county is contributing $1.4 million.
Correct.
The state is contributing, I think, $5 million.
Yep.
We have federal contributions, and then there's an active private fundraising campaign going on.
Exactly.
To raise over $20 million. So this is truly a public-private partnership.
Yep, and there are many, many partners, as you've mentioned, so.
Yeah, great, thanks. Commissioners, any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to another resolution approving the First Amendment and restatement of the Adjustable Hydraulic Structure MOU. Can I get a motion?
So moved?
Support.
All right,
Thank you, Mayor. This item has to do with the MOA, the Memorandum of Agreement between the city and federal partners for the Upper Reach. And as we've been working through the EIS and doing, which is the Environmental Impact Statement, and doing other work regarding that part of the project, we've learned that there is some flexibility that we need. And so we're proposing 4 changes. There are some technical changes. We want to clarify the responsibility for designing permitting of who's doing what. And we want to establish that the joint permitting application will include both in-river recreation and the AHS. So, and that was, we've learned along the way that we need to include them both in the permit application. So this is largely a technical amendment. It's been reviewed by the Management Advisory Committee and also by the AHS Steering Committee. They both recommend it to you, and this will help us facilitate the upper reach with our federal partners.
thank you. And so Commissioners, I co-chair a steering committee with Bob Lamb, and we have been learning together this kind of complex project of permitting, and so this is an amendment and restatement. I wouldn't be surprised if we have additional items coming forward as we learn more, but we are hopeful to have all of our permits in and start working on those and have those in place within the next year.
Yes.
Very optimistic. So, questions?
Just a clarification. I read through this, always interested in future maintenance of the adjustable hydraulic structure, and I was happy to see that the Great Lakes Fishery Commission is responsible for the lamprey control and the maintenance.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Great Lakes Fisheries, they've been really incredible partners with
They
us.
have
I mean,
been,
all of the federal and state departments that we're working with have been working hard on this project, but they have really been fantastic partners and leaders.
They have, and they've also helped secure significant funding for this project as well,
Yeah.
significant federal investment.
All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to an item to transfer the Grand Rapids Federal Building to Ferris State University.
So moved.
Support?
All right, so Eric, you want to tell us about this? I know we're all familiar with this building. Some of us were around this table when that building was vacant and when we worked through the partnership with Ferris to redevelop that beautiful space.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. So what this item will do is we'll complete the transaction that was contemplated in 2010 when we began the redevelopment of the project. And so the ultimate idea was always for Ferris to take over ownership of the building as a university structure and have them be responsible for complying with federal requirements for maintaining the project. And so in order to get there, we put together a intricate public-private partnership that involved the Crispin Company, Ferris State University, the City of Grand Rapids, our EDC, and also the federal government. And so we put the transaction together. Everyone has done exactly what they should do. The building is awesome. And Ferris is now in a position where they can issue bonds to refund the current financing and begin to take on the responsibilities of ownership. The documents that we're asking you to consider would make that happen and would do it over time. So they have to first refund the bonds and then also get approval from the federal government to do that. So there are a couple steps left, but what this does is enables all of those steps then to happen. And that will ensure that they'll be responsible long-term for maintaining the building, and if the past is any indication, they've done a great job, both with the rehabilitation and also with the maintenance, and it's a great building.
Yeah.
And Mr. Wendt is here, who assisted mightily with this, to answer any questions that might come up
All right.
that I can't answer.
Great, thanks. Commissioners, any questions for Eric or Mr. Dick Wendt?
No,
All right.
News.
clear.
It's pretty clear. Yeah, glad they're glad they have not only redeveloped this, but that they have a commitment here in downtown. So it's wonderful. All right, I think with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners, next I have a resolution approving the request from 2 James Spirits LLC for a new tasting room, and this is to be located at 740 Michigan Street Northeast.
Support.
All right. Hello, welcome.
Good morning. 2 James Spirits submitted their application for a new off-premise tasting room, which is going to be located at 740 Michigan Street, operated in partnership with the existing Seven Monks Tap Room. The application has been fully reviewed and is being recommended for approval.
Great. So can you explain this just a little bit more? I mean, Seven Monks, clearly they already have a a liquor license. How is this just adding a different component to their current business, or is it totally separate?
It is. Anytime a manufacturer wants to have an off-site tasting room, regardless of whether there's already a license there, they have to apply for their own as well.
I see. Okay. All right. Commissioner Jones, you serve on the Michigan Street Corridor Improvement District. Anything to add to this? All right. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, thanks. All right, next that will take us to a resolution adopting the South Division Corridor Plan as an amendment to the 2002 Grand Rapids Master Plan.
Support.
All right, hello, welcome.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us. As you may recall, the plan came to you at the end of August to be released for its 42-day review period. It went out for that, and we received one letter of support for Link. It then went back to Planning Commission at the end of October and received numerous positive public comments. Planning Commission then voted to recommend it for adoption to you, so that's why we're here today. We've made some slight changes to the plan since you've last seen it, so I have Adam Rosa, our consultant from Camaros, here to tell you about those.
Great, thanks.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give you an update on 5 or 6 quick items that we updated with the plan. But before I do that, I just want to recognize the leadership of the city, including the planning staff in this entire effort, members of our steering committee, some of who are in the crowd here tonight, or this morning, that really helped lead this process and make it a success, and also the community ambassadors. We had 7 local residents that played a leadership role in really making this project happen. So,
Can I pause?
Yes.
So anyone who is here who's been a part of this process, can you just stand so that we can recognize you and thank you officially for all the hard work that went into this? And thanks for being here this morning.
absolutely. So we began this in May of 2018. And along the way, we've developed a vision for the South Division Corridor. We've developed specific project initiatives and actions. And we've also identified implementation tools that are really going to carry the plan forward. So since the last time we met, we've distributed 200 copies of a summary poster that was a bilingual summary poster of all the plan elements into the neighborhood. Using our steering committee as distributors of that. And I think that's a useful tool in quickly seeing everything that's listed in the plan and why it's important. We have also amended or really recommended amendments to the city's future land use plan as part of this effort. I think that was a question that came up in the last meeting. So we took a little bit of a deeper dive in the future land use plan. And I would say the two biggest adjustments that we made was really shifting the neighborhood center designation from Cottage Grove to Hall, and then shifting the same designation of neighborhood center from Franklin to Wealthy. So that we really wanted to align with the vision that the community has created over the last year and a half. So you'll see that in the final plan. We've also simplified portions of the implementation portion of the plan, the implementation element, specifically around the EPIC Community Development Corporation. We know that they're coming to the city with their own conversations about how to move things forward. We just wanted to simplify that in the plan. We also incorporated a number of minor city edits to text and kind of grammatical things along the way. The final thing that we've done is a full Spanish translation of this document that will be completed by the end of this week. It's a time-consuming effort going through every page and every graphic, but we thought it was very important, especially just based on the dynamics of the community, to have both an English version and a Spanish version of the plan. So those are the updates. We obviously we really welcome your support in this effort. Again, I encourage all the young people in the crowd to take a look at this plan online. It's a really great example of a community-led planning process leading to some real results in an important neighborhood in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'll open it up for questions. Commissioners, I know Commissioner Repart, you've been active in this process.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see it get to this point. I think that it's a really strong, innovative plan. It's got some new things in there, and the engagement was, we just took it further. Each time we do one of these plans, we take it a little bit further, and I just think that it's going to produce even better results. So thank you for all your work. And a special shout out to Courtney Magaluk, who isn't here anymore, because she was the main liaison from the city working on the plan in the planning department.
Yeah, great, thanks. Commissioner?
Well, just a couple things that I really appreciate in your list of significant recommendations that you talked about today. One was about advocating with the city for changes to city and state policy around housing, and the other is expanding financial accessibility for the community. I think those are very laudable and very important additions to a plan. It's exciting to see that. That's going to take some effort, but I have no doubt that all those individuals who've been working hard on this will continue those efforts. So thank you for partnering with us and for identifying those as goals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments? All right, with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work. Thank you. All right, next that will take us to a 2019 water sewer rate study. Can I get a motion for this?
Support.
All right. We'll turn it over to Molly.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Commissioners. This is the 2019 rate study. This is for rates going into effect January of 2020. So I'm going to start out just showing you our 15-year history on the rate model. Since 2004 through 2019, you'll see the shaded band at the bottom is this year's rate expectation or the calculation. We recommend water supply system rates go up by 2.46%, and for the sewer system, 3.49%. The second shaded line shows what our 15-year average is. As you can see from the water supply system, we're slightly above that. With the sewer system, the average of the 15 years has been 5.26%, so our system average is still below that band. I always show this slide every year. These are the building blocks of the rate study. Rate study, as you know, is a very elaborate thing. We start in June of 2030 when we shut down the year, and that is the base level where we start building everything up for what our costs are expected to be in the next calendar year. So these green shaded boxes are our cost elements, operation and maintenance. Then we take into account our asset factors, and in the rate study, this would be an allocation for the depreciation on our outstanding assets that are in operation, as well as a return on investment calculation. And then other items that are in the rate study is the CSO debt. That was a specific thing applied against Grand Rapids rates, as well as if we have special payback agreements with our partner communities. The final three boxes are the revenue elements. Revenue credits include things like I guess I can get more to that later. That's permitting, tapping fees, things like that. The city and customer community circuit breaker, that's that penalty revenue we can use to help offset rates, as well as build volume, which is the big driver. It's the calculation of what is our expectation of revenues we expect to collect at our current level of rates. And The next slide shows that since 2010, we built in a 3-year average. Rather than having a very reactionary rate study, we use a 3-year average to calculate that revenue expectation. For the water utility, it was up 2.22% over the previous rate study, and the 3-year average for the sewer utility is up 1.04% for that 3-year average. Now, from the graphs, you can see the reason we use this 3-year average is that it provides for more rate smoothing. We're not reactionary. For the sewer utility, it's a much more, if you look at that red line, that's much more gradual because usage is based on third quarter usage is how we bill. Whereas with the water utility, that blue line is very variable. The water utility is more subject to, what's going on weather-wise with usage. So the 3-year average is a good, useful tool for that. Oh, there we go. I wanted to fast forward on me. For the water utility, going back to that slide with the major blocks, this is just it broken down for where we're getting upward pressure on rates and what is helping mitigate rates. So in the first category with O&M, construction in progress was a major factor this year, and that is basically a accounting term for, these are long-term maintenance costs. They were previously in our capital fund, and they were work that was done on our capital assets. However, they don't qualify for becoming part of the assets, so now we have to recognize them as an expense. Next major factor is the AMI program, Advanced Meter Program, and associated supplies with that. This is an initiative being taken on by the water and sewer utility to do more smart metering. And that was roughly, we're building in about $200,000 per utility over what we currently have budgeted. And then our next category is the integrated connection fees. We're not getting as many connections to the system relative to previous years. We also, I discussed in the last 2 years with you, we're seeing the effects of that. We redid the methodology of the connection fee. It's about a third of what it used to be, so we're also seeing impact of that. We're collecting less revenue per connection. Assets, for the water utility, we rolled in about 17 million of assets. This is just the ROI and the depreciation associated with those causing a little bit of upward pressure, which we get every year because we're reinvesting into our system through asset management. And then the circuit breaker, this is the penalty revenue. We actually collected less penalty revenue this year, which is a positive thing. People are more able to pay bills, and as we look at how we've implemented the Pay It system, customers now have the ability to pay monthly. So I think it's a little bit easier for them to, keep up with their expenses, things like that. So that's been, even though we have a little bit of upward pressure, we want to have less penalty revenue. So, and then the revenue credits, like I talked about before, those are slightly up this year. That makes us arrive at the 2.46% increase for water. Okay, so with the sewer utility, again, we have this construction in progress category, staffing and benefits, the AMI, same factors that were affecting the water utility, very similar stories. I forgot to mention this with the water utility, but with sewer, both of them had electrical, specifically in the category of electrical cost savings, we were able to make up a little ground there, so it did offset some of this cost increases. Assets, the return on investment and depreciation, while we had about 11 million in assets put into service as of June 30th, we are also proposing to add 30 million in assets related to the biodigester program. We'll talk about this more on the next slide, but this was a mechanism we're using in the rate study to help mitigate the next year's rate study if there's an associated increase with this program. Revenue credits for the sewer utility slightly down this year, so that those permitting fees associated with this category were lower than lower than the previous year, and then same story with circuit breaker. For decreases, we had a specific payback agreement with Kentwood over the past 4 years that has rolled off, so that that took a little bit off of the revenue expectation or revenue requirement. And then integrated revenues, this is mainly, we had a $200,000 increase in our surcharge revenue. So that is helping to offset rates. And then the CSO factor, that affects only Grand Rapids customers. That debt service is slightly lower this year.
Can I stop here?
Sure.
A couple questions.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
On the, both water and sewer, construction in progress, I assume that construction costs, which have gone up, impact that. But I did have a question about the advanced meter program and the smart metering. Is that so that we can do the remote?
Yes, so yeah, the meter reads will actually go to a tower and then feed directly into our billing system.
Okay, so I assume that also helps lower some labor costs.
Absolutely. We'll see that more in the out years. What we're doing this year is more of a pilot approach. We're placing meters out in the field right now with these endpoints. We have some towers into place and seeing, are we getting more accurate meter reads, things like that, so we can better gauge what the savings is going to be for the system and then be able to structure the rest of the program accordingly. So we'll probably be following up with you on this whole program once we get a better feel of the information, how it's gonna work within our own system. So
Okay,
it's
I
exciting.
remember going out when I first got on the commission and doing those readings, and
Yeah, it's,
that, back then, they were talking about getting this in place.
yeah.
The other question I had was, you said there are fewer connections. Is that, we get periodic updates on development in each of our wards and a nice little graph, and we've seen that there's been a bit of a slowdown. I mean, we had an explosion of development. Is that causing
It's the
this?
slowdown. It's definitely a slowdown. It is, costly to connect. We've done marketing and different efforts to try to encourage connection within our own system. So as you go down the street, if you have one person on a well and the rest of the street is on our city system, we've tried to encourage connection there too. It's just, it depends on what's going on with, the cost of getting the pipe in there, all that kind of stuff. It's based on the individual, really, so, yeah.
And then I just wanted to point out the good news, bad news about the circuit breaker credit, because it's wonderful that people are not, being charged too much and
Yeah.
late with the monthly system at the same time. Then we don't have as much in that fund, but.
Yeah, one thing I
But
will
overall,
add in about the circuit breaker program is, while what I'm talking about right now, I have a slide later on in the presentation, but we have this customer community system-wide mechanism with the penalty revenue, but we also have the individual, the ICB, which is just for individuals, that's run through, well, I'll get to it later, but the Kent County, oh my gosh, I always, that's the Kent County Communication Agency.
Action team.
It's like KCCA is what goes across my desk all the time. So,
board.
this program is for individuals that can apply to get bill assistance, help with paying their bill. We, over the past 3 years now, we've been using other non-operating revenue to help supplement that. So while we see, we're trying to find more resources for affordability with that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I was happy to see that too, because I know many of us around this table have talked about that for years, about how we need to really work with folks so that they're not getting these really sometimes significant fees because they're late with their water bill. So.
Sure. I'm sorry, is there any more questions right at this point? So our next slide is specific about that, because this $30 million asset cost we are going to build into our rate base has to do with the digester program. Eric DeLong's here to specifically talk about this slide about where we're at with that decision.
Can I ask one quick question before you get to the biodigester? Just as you look at the rate impact, which is in our packet, so it shows the system rate changes as 2.46 for water and 3.49 for sewer, but it also shows the percent changes per community.
Right.
So do we apply, I mean, that's probably good for public knowledge, like the blended rate, does that apply to every community? Or does each community, like GR shows 3.03 for sewer as an increase, is that what our customers in GR will be charged? Or do our customers pay the 3.49, which is the blended rate?
Okay, so the 3.49 is system-wide. This slide shows this by customer community, what they will actually pay. So it is a blended rate system-wide. A Grand Rapids customer is going to pay 3.03%.
Okay. Well, I just think that's an important thing that's been lost in some of the conversations
Yeah,
that have been had,
absolutely.
is that there are partner communities which have
Yeah.
significantly higher rate
Yeah.
increases due to their load on the system compared to our customers who
Right, so going back to
aren't
our,
paying us.
yeah.
Well,
So-
and two other things that I think I'd like you to speak to. One, we have a utility board that reviews all of this. Eric is active on that board, and they are key partners. A lot of these are partner communities sit around that table, and they are helping us and informing us and supporting some of the changes. But then also, Eric, can you explain the difference between a retail customer and a wholesale customer? Because some of the differences, like in East and Ada, it's because they have we have a different partnership with them. And I think some people don't understand that.
Thank you, Mayor, and it gets also to Commissioner O'Connor's question as well. So we do have two types of partners. One are retail customers or partners, and in those communities, we own the water system or the sewer system. We provide all the service, the maintenance, we do the meter reading. So it's total service in those communities. Then other communities are what we call wholesale communities, and there we deliver bulk water to a meter, and then they take responsibility for everything that happens after that. So they have their customer relationship, they do all the environmental things that are required, all the compliance things that are required. And we accept bulk sewer at a meter as well, and then we're responsible for treatment. And so based upon whether you're a retail or a wholesale customer, there are different impacts. So everybody gets charged essentially by volume the cost for integrated system components. So the water plant, the sewer plant, major trunk sewers, all those things are integrated system. And then there are non-integrated system improvements like water mains that retail customers paid for by physical location. So that explains the variation that Commissioner O'Connor was talking about, where we have many more miles of water main or sewer main. So any cost that happens on a zone gated basis gets charged across a wider group of facilities. And another community may have fewer of those facilities, and so they may have other costs. And so that's where the variation comes in.
One thing specifically this slide shows difference of at the top half up to, down to about East Grand Rapids. Those ones above East Grand Rapids, those are all retail communities. We were talking about the circuit breaker before. These communities get the benefit of that circuit breaker offset, penalty revenue offset, whereas wholesale, we don't do billing for them, so they don't get that mechanism.
It's a good distinction as well. Commissioners, any other questions about that? Or I'll have Eric can kind of give us a brief update. I know we've been updated about this project before, but.
Okay, so let's talk about the biodigester project. So I want to start with the chart on the top right, and there you'll see the costs that we know of now for the biodigester. So we're now, the total project cost, including engineering, consumers energy amount, which was just reviewed today at Community Development Committee, RNG and biodigester, those are all relatively firm prices. And we're out to bid now for the last part of the phosphorus project, which will be installation. Those bids are coming in mid-November. And once we have that, we will have firm pricing for everything. So we're projecting that the total project cost will be $85.3 million, which includes about $2 million at least $2 million of contingencies. So that's what the total project cost is now.
Eric, can you elaborate on two components? One, the reasoning behind the phosphorus. This is actually for phosphorus extraction.
Yes.
So maybe talk about that a little bit. And then with the addition of the RNG, that will enable us to work with DTE to create renewable natural gas, which will have a revenue stream in the future. I know we have very conservative projections at this time, but potentially that we'll definitely have revenue from that, and that in the future could offset some of the costs as well.
Right. So as we've moved through this project, we have, it's evolved, change in scope. And the changes in scope have been to improve the project. So the project that started out as a good project is becoming a very good project. So the RNG component, if you might recall, that we started out, we were going to use methane generated from the digesters to create energy. Methane is a relatively dirty gas. It is hard to manage, it wears things out, and it wasn't going to produce revenue for us. So as we moved through the project, we discovered that there was an ability to create renewable natural gas from the same product we will generate from the biodigestion system. And so we're able to sell the renewable natural gas into the gas system. We'll get revenue from that. The gas actually will be used by the Rapid that will be having natural gas buses for the new BRT. And so right down the road, they're building their new natural gas filling station. And so we'll be able to generate both clean gas and also earn some revenue from that over time. The phosphorus, actually, when you look at that, we should be talking about phosphorus removal. So we have to take the phosphorus generated from the sludge out of the sludge, otherwise it creates a compound called struvite. And struvite, if you can imagine a rock, that's what struvite becomes. And so we could create a rock in our pipes if we didn't take the phosphorus out. And so there are a couple ways of doing that. One is a chemical feed, where you can make the phosphorus precipitate out by using a chemical reaction, or you can do it in a natural way and without chemicals, and that's what we've chosen to do. And so those are both components that have changed. Then also the consumers interconnect. When we went to the RNG, we can actually generate more energy. And so we're likely to be able to sell some into the grid occasionally when we're not using it. And so the consumers interconnect allows us to do two-way smart metering and makes for a better project that way. So those are the changes in scope that got us to the $85 million amount.
Thank you.
So-
Commissioner, any questions about that, commissioners?
About the, no, I want to hear the rest of the presentation before.
Okay, all right, then we'll keep moving, and we'll hold questions to the end.
So next I want to talk about changes in market conditions. So the RINs is what we're selling, actually, the renewable natural gas. And the market has gone down. And it's a market-based commodity. And so when petroleum prices are low, or when regulations are lax on petroleum products, the price drops. And so we expect that we're at about the low point. It's fallen to about 59 cents, I think, per unit from an estimate of around 3. So we expect it to come back up. As it comes back up, we'll do better in terms of our revenue from those sales. We also have additional firm pricing that I talked about earlier, and the timing of the project and completion has affected when revenue will begin to be earned. And so things have to come online and be commissioned, and things have to happen sequentially, and the period for earning revenue has been pushed out a little bit, which has changed our projections. What hasn't changed is the renewable energy benefits and the sustainability benefits of this project. It remains very strong, and over time, this is exactly the right project for us, for this community. The other thing that hasn't changed is this alternative. While the price is up, it's still significantly less expensive than anything else we could have done to improve capacity at the plant. And those alternatives that would have improved capacity without using sustainability or renewable energy projects are still about twice the cost of this project. So the phasing of rates will happen as Molly, Ms. Claren, I should say, has talked about. And so what we imagine and what we believe is the right way to go is to begin phasing in the value of the rates now in order to mitigate future rate increases. That gives us a chance to have an opportunity to work in the next rate study to mitigate costs to the largest extent that we can, and to work forward and manage implementation of the project. So, it also gives us a chance to work into the savings that the mayor talked about when we're up in the revenue earning phase of the project. So moving forward, what we've done, the city manager has added capacity to the project team, and we will now also include our new city engineer and our acting managing director, James Hurt, in the project, which will add capacity and oversight to the project. And we'll also complete bidding on the project in mid-November. So that's where we are. And as the mayor said, we have reviewed this recommendation with the Utility Advisory Board. The members of the Utility Advisory Board voted in favor of recommending this to you. They also believe it's the way to proceed, and I'd be happy to take any more questions now. Thank you.
Commissioner?
So this was the biodigester was a project that was an alternative to increasing the size of the wastewater treatment facility. What was the anticipated cost of increasing the size of the wastewater treatment facility, just for comparison's sake for the public?
Well, right now, the estimates are that it would, so I think it's better to compare current state to current state. So if we're at $85 million for the biodigestion system, so the same kinds of things would have happened to the plant expansion. So that cost estimate's around $150 million right now.
Okay, so it would have cost $150 million, and we would have had no revenue offset with that type of investment. Okay, I just wanted that to be out there for people to understand more fully.
And with no opportunity for revenue generation like this provides?
Correct.
Or energy generation?
Or sustainability, or like all the other things, but just from a purely cost standpoint, it was twice as much and had no revenue generation opportunity, so
Right.
Correct.
Important
that's just
clarification.
important to have out there.
Mayor?
Yep, city manager.
May I add, and you may have heard, my understanding is that there were earlier cost projections for expansion that was made when we didn't have quite the comprehensive knowledge of the scope of what the biodigester and all the components would cost. And so I think there were earlier projections that were of the project being a third of what the new construction of expansion would be. But we've since learned and know that there are additional components, but as Eric had said, that comparing current costs to current costs, we know that it would be well over $100 million to do the expansion.
Right, exactly.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Mooney, did you have a question?
Yeah, the only question I have is that you have on here on the phasing of rates. I just want to know, do we have an estimate as to what the biodigester will save us in the future?
We know that when we begin to sell RNG into the system, we also that will produce revenue. We also know that we have the ability to sell liquid industrial byproducts and also perhaps do phosphorus recovery sales as well. So those three elements will begin to reduce the revenue requirement in future years when they come online. So right now, to give you a firm estimate would be difficult because we don't know what the market conditions are. And, if we use today's pricing, I think we can see in a couple years out, you'll see a couple percentage points reduction, and you'll see that happen over the life of the project. So I believe it might be 5 in the first year. So around 5 in the first year, 5% reduction if we see everything come online at the same time. So it depends, and so we have to time the revenue to the rate study year, and that's the complicated part of making a projection. But long-term, you'll see rate reductions based on this, and then it'll have an impact. Once we get the large benefit from it, it'll have an impact every year thereafter while we're operating it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner?
Yes, thank you. I think we all know about market conditions. It seems like the moment gas goes down, it makes up for itself very quickly for those of us who are consumers. So I'm sure it'll go back up. I just, want to thank you for the explanation about this and for Commissioner O'Connor's comments to clarify the future savings and the benefits around sustainability and using and producing renewable energy, which I think is, is clearly a goal of this commission. I know it's a complex project, so I'm happy to see that we are going to be investing in an engineer with a capability to oversee this. And I just want to thank staff who's been kind of left holding the biodigester project. It's discouraging to me when we can't knock on the door of a couple people who are really involved. So those of you who are sticking with this and working, I know your workload has increased substantially. We recognize this and we appreciate you very much. So thank you. Thank you for the presentation and for the work I know you're going to be doing.
Thanks. All right, Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. Eric, do we have any idea of the expectations of revenues when the RINs market does increase? We have some idea of what that will look like?
Well, in the first year, we're projecting that it, again, based on what we know today, that it could be as much as a 5% reduction in the rates. So in terms of, that's the number that I have in my head. I can get you the number, the monetary number.
If I remember from the conservative estimates, I thought it was $3 to $4 million a year.
Right. That's what I wanted to know, dollar-wise.
Yeah, it really depends on market.
market.
You know, when we first started this, it was 6 to 8 million annually, and that was us trying to be conservative. So I think if a full year of, if we're cranking away selling at the current market price, you know, I'm estimating 2 million right now, but we're hoping that's going to grow. I've been involved with, when I was in Anchorage, we did a renewable energy project off of a landfill, and we discovered we were making more methane than expected, but that's typical for a lot of these, you know, waste to energy projects. So we're hoping we'll be able to make up efficiencies there and hopefully be able to catch up.
And at this point, we don't have a good sense either of what we potentially could sell through consumers to put on the grid.
No, that will have to generate, that will happen with experience.
Okay. Commissioner?
From a sustainability standpoint, though, the idea that we're going to make more money when rates increase off the biodigester, I mean, we're also buying natural gas, so when rates go up, that's going to cost us money too. So it's a hard calculation to make, understanding that, you know, when consumers starts charging us, or DTE starts charging us more for natural gas, then it's going to be an offset that occurs. So just trying to find it.
There is that.
All right. Any other questions?
Okay, we'll continue.
All right.
So Ms. Claren will continue now with the presentation.
Tell us about the circuit breaker.
People call me Miss Claren, I'm always like, who's that? You know, I'm still getting used to it. Okay, circuit breaker calculation. We talked about this a lot already, so I'll just cruise through this. Of that penalty revenue, we have little bit over $1 million. 843,000 was available in this rate study. Through the calculation, though, we only utilized 642,000 with the individual circuit breaker. This is, you know, we'll have about $200,000 available in that pool to help with affordability for individuals. We saw this slide already briefly. This is just the by customer community, what is the rate impact? You'll see that the circuit breaker does come into play for the retail customer communities, for both utilities, and then wholesale, particularly with the sewer wholesale. They're getting hit a little harder because that $30 million roll-in is all integrated costs, which applies across the system. So, and then this slide is also helpful. It shows the average quarterly bill. Eric had that on his slide for particularly the Grand Rapids customers, you know, for the sewer customer, but for a water and sewer customer in the city of Grand Rapids, we expect their quarterly bill to go up by $6.16. So again, in line with, you know, a little more of an increase individually for water, but it's actually a 2.65% for sewer, and this is just based on average usage. So slightly different calculation. That's why it doesn't correlate with the slide before. Next steps. So the customer community, or our partner communities, they were delivered the rate study last Friday. They go through a 30-day comment period, and I'll be visiting them on Thursday at our utility advisory board meeting to give the same presentation and start fielding questions. Today is the initiation of the 20-day public comment period we have for the city of Grand Rapids. Their community can, you know, provide input to my team, either directly to me or Janessa, who also fields a lot of these questions, but also if they use the email address info@grcity.us, also the rate study is available in the clerk's office, as well as a citizen's guide, and it's also available online. So it's available for, the public to go through. Through late November and early December, we often meet with customer communities to talk about the specific things in their section of the rate study. How are their assets behaving? How did that influence their rates, for example? We take a deeper dive into the rate study. But if any of you, of course, want to talk about it, more, we can go ahead and set up an appointment. And then December 17th, I'll be returning to you to adopt the resolution for the 2020 rates. So,
Great.
any questions?
All right, commissioners, any other questions? All right, then I'll call the question to initiate the 20-day comment period. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, thank you. Okay, commissioners, next that will take us to a resolution setting daily parking rates for 601 Ottawa Avenue Northwest. And this is the parking lot owned by Kent County.
So moved?
All right, Mr. Naramore, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. So as the resolution, back in February of 2018, you all approved a resolution of swapping of a bunch of property for the River Restoration Project. This was one of those parcels of property in which we transitioned a formerly city-owned property to Kent County. Kent County has now been in the process of constructing a 67-space surface parking lot. For those of you not familiar, the parcel is just off the corner of Trowbridge and Ottawa in the North Monroe Business District. So as part of that, we're here to ask to be able to set the rate for this new facility. It will be available only for Kent County parking during the day from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. But after 5 p.m., it'll be available for event parking for the district, just to help with some of that other area. And all the rates have been set because all of the parking is not regulated after 5 p.m. in the area. And the rates are set such that we don't have overnight parking in the facility. So.
All right. All right, commissioners, any questions?
Just a note of appreciation, because I know that parking is at a premium in that area. Places like Speakeasy, their customers need a place to go, so I know they'll be very appreciative of this and the reasonable rate. Thanks.
And thank you, Commissioner, for serving on Mobile GR.
You're welcome.
Okay, with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution approving a brownfield plan amendment for the West Garfield Apartments redevelopment project, and this is located at 1975 and 1951 Jefferson Avenue.
Support.
All right, Mr. Klooster, you want to tell us about this?
Sure. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. So this is the final City Commission action that we're requesting related to this $6.4 million project that's funded primarily by low-income housing tax credits. It's a LEED certified building with 26 apartments, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. The purpose of this brownfield plan amendment is to facilitate a grant, a $200,000 grant from the local brownfield revolving fund to assist with gap financing for the project to see it to completion. The project is supported by the Garfield Park Neighborhood Association as well as the South Division Corridor Plans Development Review Committee.
Great, thank you. Exciting to see this move forward. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Happy to see it.
Yeah. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution approving a brownfield plan amendment for the Steel Avenue LLC redevelopment project, and this is located coincidentally at 1535 Steel Avenue. All right, so you want to tell, we had a public hearing. We heard from the company who is making an investment in the city to expand. You want to add anything?
Just a high-level summary that it's a 2.2 acre parcel that's contaminated. Legacy Steel will be building a 25,000 square foot building at an estimated cost of $2.1 million that will result in 17 new jobs created both by Legacy Steel as well as future tenants at the property. This is not a grant. This is tax increment financing request of $337,000, approximately half of which is for environmental remediation at the property.
Yeah, thank you. So Commissioners, you may recall during this public hearing, it was shared that a portion of this will go to a vapor barrier, actually a pretty significant portion of this. We know that we've had issues with that over in this neighborhood in the past, and so this will help support that environmental work that needs to be done. So, all right, any questions, comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Thank you, Jenno. All right, Commissioners, that is the last of our action items. We do have a request to go into executive session for multiple reasons, to review legal opinions as well as pending litigation. So can I get a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Support.
All right, this is a roll call, and we're going to go down to 6:01. So immediately following Kyle, I'll ask you to head down to the 6th floor. So I'll start over here with Commissioner Part.
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier? Yes. Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
And yes. So Kyle is adjourned, and we are moving into executive session. Thanks.